reshuffled, or whatever the terminology is. But while we're doing that and while we're staying on electronics, can I please ask you all to turn yourself over? Well, a big thank you for everyone for finding some purple to wear today. The only bit of purple that I could find was a tie and one shoelace. So please excuse that, but let's see how today goes. Hello, everyone. To all of those that have joined us here today, and to those many people from all over South Africa and abroad streaming us live, thank you. Many of you know Mike and Heidi have been generous in integrating us into their family for many years. And for those who don't know, I'm Andrew Trench, and our family has been friends with the Allans for many years. I'm privileged to have been given this role to steer today's proceedings. Many months ago, Mike asked me if I would tackle this role. I knew it was going to be one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But months of preparation did not prepare me for this day. So please be patient and gracious. As you can see, I will need to read my notes. Mike, however, was far more prepared and has written down exactly what he wanted to say to all of us today, and it's called My Life Story. And my task is merely to read it to us all. However, Heidi also has important input about today's proceedings, and I read. To honor Mike, we are going to incorporate two parts as we remember him today. A Christian part to honor his quiet and very personal Christian commitment. A second part to celebrate his love of life. There was nothing Mike enjoyed more than having friends and family around to celebrate with food and drink and connection. And that's what we hope today's celebration will honor. Today we don't want to mourn his death, but rather celebrate his life. Mike celebrated his life right to the end, even planning Christmases. This Christmas later this year. He lived his life to the fullest, and that's what we need to remember. Some of us may feel angry, disillusioned, or sad, but every time he spoke about today, it was about the people that matter to him, sharing time together. I'd like to ask Allan, Heidi's mom, to lead us in prayer.
Okay. Will you pray with me? O Lord God, our Heavenly Father, God of us all, your love never ends. When all else fails, you still are God. We pray to you for one another in our need, and for all anywhere who mourn with us on this day. To those who doubt, will you give light? To those who are weak, strength. To all who have sinned, mercy. And to all who sorrow, Father, will you give your peace? Keep true in us the love with which we hold one another. In all our ways we trust you, and to you, with your church on earth and in heaven, we offer honor and glory now and forever. O God, all that you have given us is yours. At first you gave Michael to us, and now with gratitude we give Michael back to you. Amen.
Thank you, Allan. I now read Mike's words, my life story. You all knew I wasn't going to let a chance like this go by without me having my say. welcome everyone. I've always planned things, and I've carefully thought through and planned holidays, occasion, careers, and even homes. I have often driven my family mad by planning everything in the vain hope that reality will follow suit. I've often driven I planned today. I knew it was coming, and I was lucky enough to know more or less when. I hope it turns out like I wanted. Like I planned. A happy celebratory event with good wine and food. After all, a party without wine is just a meeting. I've had a happy, wonderful, and exciting life, thanks to all of you who have directed, encouraged, and perhaps even unwittingly influenced me over the last 58 years. Thank you. Obviously, I would have liked a few more years, but looking back, I am happy. You did a good job. Well done. I have loved it. I suppose what I also wanted to share today is a thank you to a few special people who collaborate extensively with me in writing and living my life story, so that it not only ended well, but was also a good read throughout. My old friends, Andrew and Jenny Trench, and Trevor and Sarah Rowlands. We have known each other for nearly 30 years. We have written some very special chapters in my life story together, watching the Springboks win in Cardiff, Paris, Ellis Park, and Twickenham, standing knee-deep in the snow on New Year's Eve in New York City, as well as cruising the crystal azure seas off Valenculas, Mozambique. But most importantly, Jenny has proved to us that quirky is not always weird, and Sarah, despite being proper English, is the kindest and most considerate person I have ever met, always apologizing for people's mistakes and really meaning it. Mike has asked me to say a few words on behalf of his friends, of which I was lucky to be counted. Heidi so often talks about Mike being her rock, but he was also a rock to his friends. Someone that you could trust implicitly, rely on unreservedly, and who would listen without judgment, but would share your joy or feel your stress or heartbreak as was fitting. When asked, he always gave sound, carefully weighed opinion. That counsel will be missed. However, it was the fun and the passionate stuff that I love so much about him, and like many of his friends, we will miss so much. The rugby, the cars, the wine, the food, and the adventure. He loved to plan anything and everything, often ensuring that we had the pleasure of joining in on the ride, attending those rugby matches both locally and overseas, holidays, special occasions, or any occasion, always accompanied with good food and wine and plenty of fun. Mike stood tall amongst his friends, being fiercely proud of his family. He never missed an opportunity to share with his friends his love and commitment to Heidi, the boys, and his family. A friend wrote to Heidi and the boys a few days ago, "The fact that both boys have grown into such amazing young men, this is testimony to his effort to invest his love and pride into his kin." Even though we, the Trench family, and I'm sure many other friends as well, were very different to Mike, especially with our lack of planning, we knew he loved and embraced us completely. Mike, on behalf of your friends, we loved you and we will miss you so much. Now back to Mike's words. I think I grew up in a strange family. I talk to my sister and brother every few days and have done so all my life. We also have never had a family argument or serious disagreement. Never. The two of you have had a profound impact on my life story and have always provided a calming influence, as well as providing a very respected sounding board over the years. Thank you to Billy and Janine. My in-laws. my parents insisted I get confirmed in a church. Yes, we had to do such things when I was 17. And I decided to go to Montclair Methodist Church because the minister had a hot blonde daughter. Who would have thought that the minister, Mark Basil, would become my father-in-law? And yes, my mom-in-law, Allan, whose intellect and enthusiasm for life is an inspiration to all of us. Together guide me throughout my entire life story. Thank you to both of you. Mom and Dad, those of you who knew me way back when, in the first few chapters of my life story, know I had a simple yet idyllic childhood. An old-fashioned grounding where we enjoyed being at home, celebrated events like family Christmases, and developed a love for sport and an eagerness to know what is happening in the world. We watched the news all the time. Mom passed away in 2019, but Dad is like my Jag, just keeps on purring. Doesn't change much and has always been there for me. As my boys always say, a legend. I now ask Billy to say a few words on behalf of the family.
Well, Ed, Andrew, and thanks very much for that. Guys, Mark also spoke to me a few months ago and asking me, wouldn't say asking me, he probably told me, Billy, I need you to say a few words. And there wasn't much of a debate about it. I was like, okay, we got this, I'll go with it. Firstly, just a point, Mark always took great pleasure, I think, when we used to go out somewhere and asking the waiter, who's older, me or him? And generally, they used to say me, because I went bald and grey before him. And he found it hysterically funny that as the older brother, he was always seen as the younger brother. So, Mark, your older brother is now going to say a few words for you. Mark was born on the 18th of December 1963 in the small town of East London. Some of you may not have known. He was the firstborn and eldest son of Bill and Jean Allan. And soon he had about 2 years on his own, I think, before his world was disrupted with a younger sister, Janine. And then I think they thought everything was all hunky-dory for the next 6 years until someone else surprised them, and I came along as the younger brother. From all accounts, Mark was actually extremely well-behaved and sort of, he never got into trouble as a young boy. I tried to find some stories and there was nothing really to be told. I think as the oldest, he was always given the job to look after his younger brother and sister. Look after is probably a term I think Mark took on board, and I think he was still doing that right up until the last couple of weeks. And I think look after meant organize. So Mark was always organizing everything for us. I remember many games of sport in the garden, and it was never just, let's just go out there and play. I know, we had to have everything set up, and the cricket pitch was set up, and we had this game, and it was always all set up and organized. But fantastic memories, I'm sure Janine's got some as well, of organized games in the garden, and he was really good at that. As we sort of all grew up and left the house, Mark then became the family events organizer. Andrew mentioned planning. He was always, Mark had his favorite question for all of us was always, so what is your plan? And the minute you said, well, I'm not too sure, okay, let's talk about it. I got a plan. So Mark always had a plan he was ready to share. So it was actually great for special events because no matter what happened, he would invariably phone you up, have a chat and say, all right, this is what we're going to be doing. Is that, oh, that's good. We'll see you there, bring this, okay, great. And all we had to do was sort of arrive, show up, and have these fantastic functions. And he loved it and organized it, and it was great to have. So someone's going to have to step into those boots. I'm not too sure who's going to pick up that responsibility because he was really good at getting all that together. And I think Andrew also mentioned in that even right to the very end when he wasn't feeling that great, he was still organizing. I think I got the email about a month ago, Christmas 22, and it was about, I might not be there, but guys, here's the plan. And he goes, bring this, and this is the theme, and there it was. So Christmas was sorted. And Dad, I don't even know if you were sure, but Mark, in one of my last conversations to him, was talking about, I'm going to convince Dad to go on a cruise. And he's like, that'd be like Garden Grove on a boat. How fantastic can it be? I said, that's going to be a tough sell. Yeah, I've got this covered. So Mark, that was one of the last guys. So I'm not sure. I know he even went as far as speaking to Gordon and his wife to find out which was the best cruise to put you on, Dad. So I'm not sure if he had that discussion, but I think he was close to that. I think another thing about Mark was staying in touch. As he said in his own words, every 2 or 3 days he would speak to us. And it was literally over the last years, I think every single week us probably have had some sort of communication, no matter where he was in the world or how busy. He'd be sitting at home at night, quite tired, maybe watching something on TV, 9:30, and the phone would go. Oh, there's Mark. You're like, okay, I better say goodnight to Maury and the girls now, because it could be a bit of a long chat. For those of you who know Mark, he loved to talk, and he really would get that, and he would start talking at 9:30. By the time I look at my watch, it's 11:30. Like, Mark, I've got to go now. I've got a long day tomorrow. And he'd still be, one last thing. But anyway, those late night chats, and every couple of days was amazing how he stayed in touch. And we really saw him as sort of the glue that kept all of us communicating really well and in touch as a family. And he was really interested in what was happening. So when he phoned, it wasn't just about, this is what I've done and what's happening around it. It was like, so what's happening with you, and what's happening with our partners, and with Trevor or Maury, or what's happening with the girls, and are they doing all right at varsity? It was real things that he took a real interest in, and I think just cared a lot about that. Mark also always made time for family, as we know. I had a list of the sort of things I could think about, and the list got too long, so I sort of had to stop it. But I try to look at one for each of Dad, Janine, and myself. So I know certainly from my side, I remember school sports and playing sport at school. And on a Saturday morning on the cricket field, I might be wicketkeeper and looking up, and there I suddenly see Mark's car arriving, and he'd stop and come and watch. And that might be time when he was in the army, and he still had time on a Saturday morning to do that, or even when he was married, and he'd come along and make time on a Saturday morning, which was fantastic. Janine and the girls, I know they got some fond memories. I think Mark at the time was spending quite a bit of time in Joburg. Trevor was working in Cape Town quite a lot. And sort of no matter what, he would always make time to pop in and see them. Now, I think one thing it's about making a phone call, but to physically get there, show up and pitch up, that takes a whole different level of commitment. And Mark would often pop in there during the week for some takeaway or sushi, I think as they used to have in Lone Hill, and they had their fond memories of sushi in Joburg. I think from Dad's point of view, I know the last 3 years have been quite hard with my mum passing away, but I think Mark always still had time to make sure he could meet for coffee, and I think the Lucia Moore coffee shop was their regular spot, and he also, no matter what, even if he had just been through chemo or had done chemo that day, he was still there and still showing up for those. So I think definitely showing up and being present was a big strength of Mark. Okay, I'm getting there. As you heard from Andrew, sport was a big part of Mark's life, especially rugby. And Andrew's touched on a few of the international games that they got to. The only point I wanted to add there was Mark is the only guy I've ever known, I remember him talking to me about it, he managed to convince his wife that for their 50th birthday, he would take her to Twickenham to watch the Springboks. I don't know how he managed to do that, but it was a fantastic achievement. But there they went off, I think, to Twickenham 2015 to watch the World Cup quarterfinal against Wales with his mates. How he pulled that off, I don't know if it was the shopping money in London at the time, it might have been the convincing part, but he managed to do that. For Dad and I, we had two standout sporting events that really stood out for us, that the three of us got to together. For any rugby supporters out there, you might remember the Currie Cup final of 1990. In those days, I think they were called the Banana Boys still, but it was the Sharks actually, took on Naaspoort's Blue Bulls in Pretoria. And we made a last-minute call to go fly up to watch the game. And the three of us went up there, amazing occasion, and I think the Sharks won for the first time ever in 100 years. It was such a good occasion that I think we were supposed to get the bus back to the airport to get us back to a flight, and it got back to the airport too late and the plane had already left. So we had to drive back to Durban that day. But anyway, it was just a good ending to a trip. The other one was the World Cup 1995. At that stage, Mark and Heidi had been living in Holland for a few years. Young Wes, I think, had been born, and they took their first trip out to South Africa at that stage. And we booked seats for the semi-final against France, South Africa. We had great seats. We thought we'd sit on the north stand so the sun wouldn't be in our eyes. Instead, the driving rain was coming straight at us. And we had a game that I've never been so wet in. But again, one of the standout memories there was Dad, Mark, and I sitting sort of cheering on the Springboks in the pouring rain, and we couldn't have been happier. Mark also he was also a racing fan. I think that's the reason, the sports car, which is always a big dream of his. But him and Dad did a couple of trips to the old Grand Prix in South Africa back in the 1970s, I think. That was before my time, but they did some nice trips up there. And I think, look at those sort of events that he did with us, which is certainly something that he did similar later with his boys in great sporting events. Again, just great memories there. So then our family expanded a bit later. So Heidi officially joined the family in 1988 when they got married. Although actually Heidi had been part of the family way before then. You know, I think for those of you who don't know, Mark and Heidi sort of met at high school when he decided he needed to go down to confirmation, as he said in his own words there. So Heidi had long been part of our family before then. And then, as I mentioned earlier, they spent a few years in Holland before that family started to grow. Wes was born in Holland, and Bren born a few years later when they were back in South Africa. But we all had time to visit them in Holland, and I think it was a really exciting time for everyone. Mike was always encouraging us to come over, come visit, and then again, he would organize a weekend away, something to do, and we had great times coming to visit them, and a very exciting time in Mark and Heidi's life at that stage. But if I look at all the times, and I think it's similar to what Andrew said, I think Mark, for me, was always the happiest when he was with his A-team, and that was Heidi and the boys. Whether that was at a holiday that they were doing, a family holiday, a school event, on the side of the sports field, at the school choir, a dinner out, or even just a bride home. Time with him together was just his best. And I know he was extremely proud of what all of them have achieved and will still go on to achieve. And he spoke about that frequently. Okay, I'm nearly there. The last 3 years have been very tough for us as a family. As Mark mentioned, he got diagnosed with cancer in September 2019. My mom passed away in October 2019. And then we've had the last 3 years of Mark having the fight against cancer, which he took on. I don't think cancer knew what they was up against until they got hold of Mark. He really did take it on in a big way. I think he must have set a record of something like 44 or 45 chemo sessions. I don't know anyone who's got close to that. So he's definitely going to leave a massive hole in our family. But we are just very grateful for all the memories that we've had in the 58 years that he was around. I just think Wes and Bren, you guys really have been amazing over the last 3 years in particular. And from Dad, Janine, and I just want to say thank you for all that you did for Mark during this time. You really cared for him a lot. Sorry, guys. I know Mark will be saying, come on, get with it. So Mark, we'll miss you. We will look back with fond remembrance. We will always love you. But you can rest easy now with Mom, and you really deserve it. Thank you.
I'm going to continue reading Mark's words. Mark moved on to his boys in his life story. My boys. Where's Wesley? There he is. Okay. No, it's fine. Oh. Just the light is in my eyes. I can't. There you are. I'm immensely proud of you both. Not only have you both excelled at school, UCT, and now as you build your careers, but both turned out to be special young men. Love is unconditional, but you both have earned my respect, admiration, and trust as my best friends over the last few years as you have become adults. Wesley, never lose your sense of loyalty and compassion, which you have in abundance. and also keep that steel spine that you haul out when needed. Bren, you will be massively successful, that we all know. Remember, a good life story is not only in the ending, but the whole book. Keep seeking out that enjoyable and positive things every day and enjoy your own life story while making your fortune. Be patient. Life is not that short. Not everything has to be done today. Guys, I have loved every minute of your growing up, and I'm so proud of what you have already achieved and will achieve in the future. Wes, your turn.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone. Now, personally, I prefer to write speeches which are just single points and kind of make it up from there, but my father hated that and told me I need to write everything out in full, so I decided to actually write a piece for him this time. My father was someone you could never ignore. He was someone whose large personality, hard work, love, joy, and laughter could take over a room in seconds. I'm sure we've all seen that. People talk about someone having a genuine passion for life, like we don't all have some kind of passion for life. But my dad genuinely loved being alive. He loved being with everyone and having the chance to experience so many things that the world had to offer. And for me, the best way that I can prove that he genuinely loved life, when he was diagnosed, the general lifespan for someone with pancreatic cancer was around 3 months. My father survived over 3 years. A few months ago, he was given 7 days to live, and he kept going for another 3 months. My dad refused to give up life at any possible chance he had. And what a life he did have. What a life that he built. Even though he only lived for just under 59 years, he managed to pack several lifetimes worth of love, experiences, growth, and understanding into that time. And yet, still found time to be my dad. If I were to explain all the lessons my dad taught me throughout life, I'd be up here until we all got kicked out at 11:30. From the simple rites of passage things like learning to drive, to the evergreen lifelong lessons of hard work as a skill, to the final and most painful lesson that life can get cut short at any time. So you better make sure you put off the things that matter. You don't put off the things that matter. When you're around someone close to you who's knowing approaching the end of their life, you learn very quickly what truly matters to that person. And through them, you can learn what truly matters about life. When my father discovered that he was terminal in 2021, he told us that when he had a real look at the life that he'd led, he had no real regrets, apart from turning down tickets to watch us win the 2007 World Cup. My father, as we all know, he made certain to bring joy and happiness to not only his life, but the lives of everyone around him, doing everything he can to excite, inspire, and grow those around him. The family unit he built between me, my mother, and Bren is bulletproof. Without him, we will always keep his memory alive through us. My father's legacy will mean something different to all of us. Some will carry forth his love of life. Some will empower themselves through his understanding of hard work. Some, in turn, will take the love he had for his friends and family and use it to build and strengthen the relationships in their lives. Whatever it may be, each one of my father's many facets touched us all. And I know that all of us will take something away from our relationship with my dad and keep it with us forever. Thank you, Dad, for everything. I love you, and I promise I'm going to make you proud. Bren?
So I've had 3 years, roughly, to figure out what I want to say today. And every time I started to think about writing something down that could capture who my dad was, I'd give up. So just over 3 years ago, my father Mike was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a disease which, as many of you in attendance know, promises a swift and painful exit from this mortal coil. But that wasn't going to stop my dad. And although the past 3 years were incredibly tough and filled with many ups and downs, they were filled with even more happy memories. And there were 3 incredibly special years that formed part of the almost 25 wonderful years that I got to share with my dad. However, without some of the wonderful people in this room and those watching at home around the world, we would never have had those 3 years. I have to pay a special tribute to my mum, Heidi, who was, in my dad's words, a superhero throughout. Even in his hardest days, my dad would say to me, you know, Mum's amazing. She kept me alive all this time. My mum was his nurse, his confidant, his supporter, and his best friend. Most importantly to us, my mum was a champion of my dad's dignity. I mean that even when it was time to go, he left on his own terms. I have to thank my brother Wes, a man who is defined by his affable, unflappable nature. Wes stepped up when it mattered most and was a rock to my mum, my dad, and the broader family. I also have to thank Granddad, whose trips to Franschhoek became a highlight of my dad's final months, and whose incredible patience, love, and gentle care gave my dad the support he needed in his final days. There are so many incredible people to thank, and I will thank all of you individually, I promise. But I mostly want to pay tribute to my dad. I spent a long time thinking about what I wanted to say today, and in the end I wanted to share 5 of the lessons that I learned. So firstly, my dad taught me to learn. So many of you will have known my dad's unquenchable thirst for knowledge, someone who treasured his subscription to the Sunday Times and made sure our dinner table conversations were filled with discussions on current events, from topic on art and culture or sport, or one of his fantastic retellings of a book he had on the go. His open-minded approach and continuous evolution in his outlook shaped the way that I view my day-to-day life, and is something that I will carry with me forever. Secondly, my dad taught me to lead. So growing up, I only remember seeing my dad in positions of leadership, whether it be during his time at Unilever, from which he has so many special friends, to his time at OMO, Bioscience, Beige, LaSalle, Reconnect, and everything in between. The way my dad led people is something that I hope to emulate in my professional career. He taught me from a very young age that respect is earned, not given, and that the most important thing a leader can engender is a culture of mutual respect. Thirdly, my dad taught me to laugh. With a glint in his eye and a cheeky sense of humor, my dad's flamboyancy and laughter filled any room with warmth. I remember how quickly tears would fill my eyes at a prank he pulled or a quip he made, or undoubtedly something stupid that Wes had done. Even in the hardest times, my dad retained a sense of humor and found a way to share a laugh no matter how much he was struggling internally. Fourthly, my dad taught me how to live. When you're given an expiry date or a definitive end to the sentence of your life, it's quite easy to wallow in sadness and to be upset and to curse out, why me? Why does this happen? But not my dad. Not to us, at least. In fact, my dad continued to put the well-being of his family and his sons above his own, even when faced with a terminal diagnosis. His shiny F-Type, parked somewhere outside, is a testament to his determination to live each day to the absolute best of his ability. My dad's positivity is what kept him here for 3 years. He was a true fighter. And through even the most trying times, he looked for the good in every single day and reminded me all the time to keep looking for the positive. Finally, my dad taught me how to love. I think he gave me 25 years of the purest example of love that I could ever have asked for. The love my dad had for my mum is something so incredibly rare. They were not only a married couple, but they were each other's best friend. And my dad set an incredible standard for how to treat women, how to treat your wife, and how to conduct yourself as a true gentleman. My dad also loved us, Wes and I, immeasurably. Everything that we have achieved is a testament to that at home we had the most tremendous pillar of support and pride. He was there for us when it mattered most, and I know he will always be with us. Everyone here today will have something that they learned from my dad. He was a truly, truly special man. And I hope that we all continue to learn from him. And I hope we all continue to do him proud. And he would have loved today. All his favorite people here gathered, and some of you remotely, to celebrate our special husband, father, and friend, and to enjoy some good food and a glass of wine. That was my dad. You know, he loved the term gezellig, which I still don't really know what it means, but I know he would have wanted to make today a gezellige day. The only thing that would have made today a little bit better is if we were rushing home to watch the Boks play. He lived his life like a game of rugby that he was so passionate about. He played with determination and vigor and loyalty and optimism, always believing that the team would win. Maybe not today, but we'll win the next time. And, just wait for the Rugby World Cup, then we'll show them who's boss. But as the great referee blew his whistle and called full time for my dad, he left the field with his head held high, his heart incredibly full, and as a winner. Dad, we're going to miss you. You're my best friend. Thank you for everything. Thanks.
I think the tissues are more for me than for Brett. Well done, guys. The life story continues with the love of his life. Mike writes, "And then my Heidi, it seems as if we've known each other and I have loved you forever. We were so young when we got married 33 years ago. The years have passed away so quickly. In particular, I love the years we spent in Europe in the 90s, which really allowed us to grow into a formidable team. Then the boys came along and grew up. Whether we were just lucky, I don't know. But we had so many good family times, hardly any hard times, and never any bad times. We have known so many of life's joys, secrets, and wonders, and my feet have never really been on the ground. Over the last few years, we just seem to be getting better and better together. Your impact on my life story has been immense. I'm sorry to leave you alone at this time when our plans at Franschhoek are in place, but we've had the opportunity to enjoy it for a few years, and it has been everything I planned it would be. Thank you, my darling." Heidi, would you like to say?
This is going to be hard, but I'm going to do the best that I can. I just want to thank you all for joining us today to mourn, but also to celebrate Mike in the way that he wanted. Everybody has mentioned that he wanted this togetherness, this celebration, this joy, and to acknowledge a life well lived. And I want to just thank Andrew and Jenny, who, more even than me, have honored what he wanted today. He didn't want a formal service. He didn't want a formality. He wanted a joy, a celebration. And I know we're crying, and I know we're sad. but sad because of the pain that we experience. And as the Queen said, pain is the price you pay for love. And we wouldn't be sad today if we hadn't loved him. There's so many other people I would like to thank today for supporting us and for their presence during these last 3 years. And if I continued, as Wesley and Brendan have said, we would still be here this evening. But I would like to take the moment just to honor 2 groups of people. One, my work family, who have been with us from the start and have walked this journey with us. And the second, my Franschhoek family, work family, who welcomed me with open arms into my new practice and given me something to make me feel secure, and also that has allowed Mike to feel at peace that I have a way forward. As everyone said, Mike and I have been together for almost 40 years. We grew up together, we matured together, and planned to grow old together. But that was not part of the greater plan for us. Instead, we were given an extra 3 years and 3 weeks to enjoy each other and spend time doing some of the things we planned to do later on in life, moving to the Franschhoek Valley, eating out in wonderful restaurants, visiting vineyards, visiting art galleries, and just driving and exploring. We had a love you don't find every day. When we started dating, a lot of people told me, and some of you are out there in the ether listening to this, that we wouldn't last because we were both so strong-willed. But it did last. I've just celebrated my 34th wedding anniversary on Saturday. But because we were so strong-willed, maybe that's why it lasted. Maybe that's what helped us get through the hiccups and be where we are today. Mike was my soulmate, my best friend, my person. He challenged me, he supported me, and more than anything, he loved and respected me. He was the role model I wanted for my boys. They were his life. They didn't have to do anything to make him proud. He just loved the men they have become, so different and so precious in their individual ways. His greatest wish for each of them was to be happy and to value the 2 wonderful women in their lives, Kayla and Emma. The 2 of you have supported them so amazingly during this very difficult journey, and I can't thank either of you enough. The last 3 years have been very hard, and the aloneness, even when Mike was with me, was difficult. But I think perhaps it was preparing me for the time ahead. And I couldn't have done this without the support of Dad, Mike's dad, and my mum, and our 2 boys. Mike, as everybody has said to you, loved his rugby, and he lived his life like the game of rugby he was so passionate about, the game who took him to interesting places and helped him meet the most interesting, wonderful people that have come into our lives. They shared this passion with him. But Mike was like the coach, and as everyone has said, who loved to plan every move, every member of the team, every replacement, and every outcome. Each member of his squad meant so much to him. Whether he let you know it or not, it mattered to him what happened to each one of you, and he really did care. His greatest delight was planning those Christmases and holidays and events together. The menu was drawn up weeks in advance and the activities investigated and planned, and afterwards he loved even more to analyze and relive those experiences. For those of you who don't yet know, the Christmas theme for the year ahead is, I made it myself. He's already planned that. When we fall in love, we think of all the good things. When we say for better or for worse, we think of the better, not the worse. When we say till death do us part, we think that that will be a very long time away, but sometimes it's over in a blink of an eye. Mike, I've watched you slip away from me. And I've watched you fade away. And that has been so incredibly hard. But I'm not going to remember that. I'm going to remember the man he was, the passionate, hard-working, committed, terribly loyal man that he was. All those who talk about Mike, every message on Facebook, every WhatsApp I've received, every private message, noon, my midnight, my talk, my song, I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. Goodbye, my darling.
Isn't it so wonderful to hear these lovely stories of a true man? And so it seems fitting to read from 1 Corinthians 13, 1 to 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it'll pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, love. But the greatest of these is love. Can we join together to sing "Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah," a hymn that was perfectly fitting for Mike, as not only a joy.
Me, O Thou great Jehovah.
In closing, Mike wrote, and so I've reached the end of my life story, and I think it's been a good read. I've loved it, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you to everyone who has helped me along the way and write it. Please enjoy the wine. So thank you, everyone. I think what we would like to do is that you charge your glass, and when you're chatting to someone else or someone new, just look them in the eye and raise a toast to Mike and just say thank you. Thank you, everyone.